see several people here. If you have not been at a plan commission meeting before, let me tell you how it works. I will introduce the item, and staff will present a summary, the staff report of the item, and then the plan commission will ask technical questions about the issue. And then at that time, we will open public comment and request a statement first from the applicant.
Hey, Kathy,
And
slide your mic over a little bit, please. Thank you.
maybe I just move. And then comments from anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak. If you do wish to speak, come over to the podium, give your name and address and your views. And then after we've heard from the public, it'll be back to the commission for discussion and a vote. Call the roll, please.
Hintz?
Here.
Coulibaly?
Here.
Davy?
Here.
Ford?
Here.
Groth? Kiefer? Mitchell?
Here.
Harry?
Here.
Stengel? Here. Marshall? You can come up, Jay. Eight present.
Okay. You have the August 4th minutes. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. First item is the specific implementation plan amendment. Yeah, we have to have this. An implementation plan amendment for additional parking and accessory structures in the front yard at 900 North Keller Street. This is U-Haul. And the note is that the petitioner is requesting this item to be laid over until the September 15 meeting. Is
So
that
moved.
still?
Second.
Okay, all, roll call on the layover.
Hintz?
Aye.
Coulibaly?
Aye.
Davy?
Aye.
Ford?
Aye.
Mitchell?
Aye.
Harry?
Aye.
Stengel?
Aye.
Prop.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
Okay, item 2 is residential design standards variance to allow a waterfront yard setback not consistent with the prevailing building setbacks for a new home on an infill site at 3074 Lake Rest Lane. Were there any site inspections? The chair will accept the staff report as part of the record. Staff, go ahead with your summary.
Thank you. So item 2 is a residential design standards variance request to allow a waterfront yard setback not consistent with the prevailing building setbacks out there on the subject site. Just for reference, code provision in the zoning ordinance does require a lineup provision. So that is, new homes have to line up with the prevailing building setback. The idea is that I think the intent is that we want the massing and the street wall, so to speak, to be relatively consistent whenever possible. So this section on the screen is the prevailing code reference that we're going to reference here and use. Subject site is outlined here. You can see it. It is a odd-shaped site. It is zoned SR5 Lakefront Residential Overlay in response to the lakefront, both the channel on the south and Lake Winnebago to the north. Around there is mostly single-family properties of varying scale and architectural style. And with this site, it's unique in the sense that there is no right-of-way. It is just a private access drive that goes through the site, and the site is on the corner of that access drive. So we'll get into that. You can see an aerial of the subject site here, with the access drive kind of transversing through it on the south and then curving up sort of to the northeast there. So you can see how it narrows towards its southern end of it. And there are actually 2 waterfront yards. There is no front yard, so to speak, because there is no public right-of-way here. Just some images that I took, and if you remember, for some of you that have been on the commission, this did come through the Plan Commission at the October 1st, 2019 meeting. At the time, the applicant did submit a plan for this lot. We discussed it, we had a lot of neighbor input, and at the time, I think he was asking for a 30-foot setback from the north waterfront. And due to a lot of the input provided by the neighbors at the time, the Plan Commission recommended, or actually did deny, I should say, staff recommended approval at the time. There was some revelation after that. We discussed with the neighbors, and then the neighbors came to the meeting and they spoke out against the 30-foot setback. Plan Commission denied it. You can just see the subject site here, some more pictures. It hasn't changed much since last year, but we did visit it this year in the last month or so. So right now, it's a vacant site. You know, it did have a cottage on the site, I think, until the 1990s. That has since obviously been demolished. Just some more images here of that access drive and the subject property, and then some of the surrounding property too. You can see here, these are actually elevations that the applicant originally proposed. I want to note right away that this design is likely changing due to some restrictions that Easement places on the parcel. Here, I want to call your attention to this diagram here. This is one that I took the applicant's original floor plan, or site plan, I should say. Mark,
I'll back.
Okay, there we go, thanks.
Oh, sorry. There you go.
So I took the applicant's original site plan and superimposed that on an aerial of the site from our GIS system that we have. And I wanted to show the utility easement, and Public Works has weighed in. They've been involved in the discussion for a while now. So according to Public Works, there is a utility easement and a construction easement on this site. And so you can see in red there where those easements run through. And the utility easement would not be buildable. Public Works would not grant encroachment into utility easement. There is a storm sewer that runs underneath, and so they need to keep that open. That easement runs approximately 14 feet onto the subject parcel. Beyond that, according to DPW, the Public Works, there is 5 feet of additional construction easement on the parcel. And then you can see here in sort of reddish oranges there, on the north end of the site and the south end of the site is actually waterfront yard. And due to the lineup provision in the ordinance, you can kind of get a sense of what's not shaded is buildable area if we were to strictly apply the ordinance. So the site is unique. There is only about 30 feet of buildable width when you factor in the side yard setback and the easement. Mark, do you want me to hold? Okay. When you factor in the side yard setback and the easement, there is about 30 feet of buildable width on the south end of the site if the applicant were to have to build there. So they are requesting to be able to shift the placement of their house up to the north a little bit. What they have done is, since last time, instead of proposing a 30-foot waterfront setback on the north, they are shifting it to 52 feet off the water on the north. Technically, there is waterfront yard on the south and on the north end of the lot. Primarily, we are concerned with the north setback. I think that's the setback that the neighbors are concerned with. That's the one that we're looking at in particular. You can see we did break down some of the setbacks for the existing houses out there. And then the base lakefront residential overlay setbacks. Obviously, when there's a lineup provision, the base setback shifts to account for the prevailing building setback there. See if I can go forward here.
Should be able to now.
Okay, thanks. So the applicant can have a survey done, so that's what this is, just showing it's a little hard to see, but showing the easement and the utilities. And at the time, the applicant did meet the impervious surface maximum for the site, despite having the driveway and the house placed or proposed as it was, and the access drive. They were under the 50% impervious surface ratio. So we did ask them to verify that. I want to note here, and I handed it out to all of you, since this staff report was written, it was similar to the last time this was submitted. We heard from some of the neighbors, from attorneys both for the applicant and the neighbors, and also discussed with Public Works and the applicant. The applicant has decided to slightly alter the design of the home to stay out of the construction easement entirely. Not just the utility easement, but the construction easement. You see this plan here, and I think you have it in your hard packets there, in the material that I handed out just now. The garage is on the southern end of the house, but they have altered it so that they do not need an encroachment or will not need an encroachment agreement for the easement. They are requesting, I believe, a 50-foot setback, different from the 52. We'll have them verify that. They will have to formally request that at the meeting. I think they show on this plan 52 still, so we'll ask them to clarify. But this is the updated plan of the house. So as I mentioned, we've had a lot of conversation with the neighbors, with the applicant, with attorneys, etc. We as staff are recommending approval at this point, and even based on the input that we received beyond the initial staff report, we are still comfortable recommending approval of a variance to allow the placement only to change. It's important to note that this variance will not be for the design of the house, impervious surface, none of that. It's only for the placement, for the lakefront, or the waterfront, I should say, setback. So with that, just some standard conditions that we have in recommending approval, that they would submit the design, go through all the permits and reviews that would be normal for this type of project for a new home. So that would be reviewed by staff. And any variances, any type of issues with conforming to the design standards beyond this would have to come back to Plan Commission for review and approval. And then the last condition is only pertinent if they were to need to build in any part of the easement. Condition 4 would apply then. Otherwise, they would just obtain departmental approvals just like normal. We did receive some correspondence from some of the neighbors, and rather than go through it word for word, we did receive a lot of, I think there were like 5 neighbors in favor. There were 2, to my knowledge, that were against, that submitted input before the meeting. And as I mentioned, that's in some of your materials.
So Plan Commission should have got a number of those materials as they came in. The last couple of materials we distributed today, the members that are virtually, I did email you maybe about 15 minutes ago, the virtual materials as well. So the stuff that is new that was not sent to you previously, you should have.
Okay, technical questions? Anybody virtual have technical questions? Tom, Mamadou, Justin?
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about the environmental basis for the setbacks and the requirements that are present for any sort of buffer or provisions that help to protect water quality when there's shoreline development?
So this area of the city is exempt from shoreline regulations under the county based on when it was construed into the city. So shoreline setbacks do not apply from the county level. However, Stephen, if we can go back, I'll go back.
Oh, sure. Yep.
In the Lakefront Overlay District, we have established some setbacks to make sure at least a minimum water setback is maintained. Stephen has them here on the staff report for you. Those are the minimum required setbacks within the Lakefront Residential Overlay. The application today is actually specifically related to design standards variances that require lineup provisions above and beyond standard setbacks.
When the city receives application regarding waterfront anything, do they provide information for, I don't know, that the county has their program to provide funding for native shore restoration. I know there's a state program with the DNR, Wisconsin Shoreline Management Program. Do applicants or homeowners ever receive any information on any of that?
At this time, they are not required to provide that information to the city. The only thing that's required for the city is setbacks, and then floodplain ordinances. We do require the documentation for what the flood elevation will be.
How about the other way around? Does the city provide information, given that, one of the main goals or a large goal of the comprehensive plan and just general operations is to improve water quality? Do we provide information to homeowners when they do such an application that could potentially disturb shore space? Best practices, and here's funding avenues and whatnot.
So typically we don't do that until you actually get to a permitting process to see if a project is going to be able to move forward. And then we do reference people to DNR resources and county resources.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other technical questions here?
Just for historical
Jay.
context, where was the original home located on the lot? Do we know, or?
Yes, the owner may be able to.
Okay. Technical questions? Okay. We will open it up to public comment then, and at first we will request a statement from the applicant or the applicant's representative.
Mark, I'm having a hard time hearing anything that anyone's saying. It kind of cut away halfway through the presentation, and it's been really difficult.
Yeah, we've been having some technical issues on this, and let me see if there's anything I can do for you.
Okay, just making you aware. You don't have to stop anything.
Appreciate it.
Are we ready?
We're ready. Name and address, please.
Attorney Russ Ref, 217 CP Avenue, Oshkosh. Could I have the slide that shows the aerial photo with the shoreline, please? All right, yeah, I think that one will work. Staff did a very thorough job with its report and its presentation, so I'm going to try not to repeat that and keep this brief. Just a couple key points I would like to point out. The Salmon's proposed residence would comply with the minimum 25-foot setback that the city has for shoreline. The variance here is needed because it is an infill. There are other residences, and obviously the ordinance requires the new residents to align as much as possible with the existing residences. The reason I wanted this picture is I did want to point out that in this area the shoreline is not straight. In fact, it curves to the north fairly drastically at this site. Obviously the moving it forward would affect sight lines, but because of the way the shoreline is, the property that would be most adversely affected would be the one immediately west. But because of the configuration of the shoreline, the view that would be blocked would be primarily of that peninsula as it comes out to the east rather than the lake. So certainly there is an impact with moving it forward, but not as much as if the shoreline was straight in this area. The Salmons have owned this lot for about 20 years. They did remove the dilapidated cottage that was somewhere on the property. They bought it with the dream of building their retirement residence there, and that's what they're attempting to do right now. This lot presents a number of building challenges. The irregular shape, the lot narrows as you get farther away from the lake, so the farther you move back, the smaller your building area becomes on this lot. There's shoreline setbacks front and rear, and then there's the utility easements that run along the east side of this property. So there are a number of unique challenges. As staff indicated, and some of you may remember, when this came up last year, a lot of the neighbors appeared. The variance was denied. The neighbors kind of caucused since then, went to the Salmons and said, look, 30 feet is too close, but we would be okay with 50 feet. So Based on that, the Salmons redesigned their home to accommodate a 50-foot setback. The staff report indicates 52 feet. That's because that was what was shown on the site plan submitted by the Salmons, but they would actually like a setback of 50 feet because that was acceptable to the neighbors. It's my understanding that's acceptable to staff. And moving forward, because of the shape of the lot, would maybe allow them to get back some of what they had to cut off in order to comply with the 50-foot setback. After the variance application was submitted, Public Works indicated that because of the sewer and water mains, they were concerned that construction could undermine the new residence if it was too close. So in addition to the permanent easement, there was a 5-foot temporary construction easement that staff has talked about. Public Works said if the Salmons wanted to build within that additional 5 feet, they would require a foundation that was 8 feet deep as opposed to a normal 4-foot foundation. The Salmons looked at that, found out the cost was prohibitive, and shifted and reduced the size of their house further to get out of that additional 5 feet. So the plan you have before you now is not only out of the permanent easement, but it's also out of that additional 5 feet. The other thing that transpired after that is it was the Salmons' understanding that they also had to keep the overhang of the residence out of that 5-foot area. I talked to James Robbie, the Director of Public Works, yesterday. He informed me that they were not concerned about the overhang. They were only concerned about the foundation. So if there is a condition, we would want it to require the foundation to be outside of that 5 feet, not the entire residence, including the overhang. Because obviously the overhang wouldn't present any problems if they were digging in the ground along the foundation. So what the Salmons are requesting, just to, I guess, reiterate, is they would like a alignment setback variance that would allow them to construct within 50 feet of the shoreline. The encroachment easement or agreement should no longer be necessary. They're willing to accept a condition that no part of the foundation be located within the 5-foot temporary construction easement. And this is, as you all know, the purpose of variances is to address unique situations. And this is truly a unique situation and a perfect situation for a variance. So we are respectfully requesting that the variance be granted with the conditions that I've requested and were requested by staff. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the Salmons are also here if you have any questions for them.
Questions? Don?
How big is the overhang gonna be if you're considering the overhang going over? I mean, most
Mike
overhangs
told
are
me
only,
2 feet.
yeah.
But on this lot, 2 feet makes a big difference.
Just making sure, because I didn't know if you're gonna have something
No.
larger hanging off the side or something.
Other questions? Questions from the virtual folks?
See the overhang.
Okay, I guess not right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who else would like to speak on this item? Come forward.
Justin, does that sound better?
Come forward, please. Okay, now I see you.
Sorry.
Oh.
My name is Ron Wenzel, and my wife Kathy and I own a cottage that is right adjacent to the Salmons' building project there. It's our understanding that the building and zoning restrictions are made for the purpose of having conforming buildings in a neighborhood and allowing the individuality but not adversely affecting the rights of the neighbors. The variance hardship is used if the property cannot be reasonably used in the manner consistent with that existing zoning. When you look at the whole process there, it becomes more of an issue of you have to comply with your improvements that you're going to make or the building you're going to make, but that means you can downsize somewhat too. even more than what you may already have. Because at that point, you have to be consistent with the other property. You also have to be building within the regulation, and compliance would expose or destroy alternative features. Well, in this case, that's not true. There is no demonstration of hardship here, though. They just need to adjust the building plan so that it would fit into that lot area. The variance would affect aesthetics and values of all the neighboring properties also.
Okay, questions, anybody? I guess not. Thank you very much.
Mark, can we get that background noise somehow down?
Can we help the feedback issue or not?
Let's see if it's a little better now, and we'll go forward.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kathy Wenzel. I'm his wife. And our lot, or our home, is on 3076, which is kind of the point there. So that's where we are. I think it's important first to give you some background that the neighbors that approved of this building are either seasonal neighbors, so they're only there some weekends in the summer, or they live a distance away. The neighbors that are directly adjacent to this building are all here today. So they're the ones that are really affected by what's going to happen here. The rest of them, you know, they're really not affected so much. I think it's important to note, as my husband said, and I researched the state statutes quite a bit, and I think in terms of, you always have to go back to the state, and a municipality cannot override anything firm in the state. And the state was very clear that this can only be even requested if there is a hardship. So in other words, if the building is there and it's falling apart, and now to maybe redo the roof or redo the foundation, then the current restrictions would present a hardship, okay? So that's a hardship. This is a buildable lot, which I don't think any of us have a problem with. It just needs to meet the original requisites of the zoning. And as I said, a hardship has to be something that, as my husband already said, has to significantly impact the applicant, that they cannot continue to live there, that they would have to incur a lot more cost, et cetera, et cetera. We're talking about the size of their home. My husband and I were going to address our home, and we couldn't because it did not meet what we felt would be appropriate neighbors. We'd be out of line with our neighbors directly to the north, et cetera, et cetera. And so we just pretty much scrapped that plan, and we decided that rather than building on, we would just adjust what we had inside, and the building is what it is. But I think the crux of the matter is the variance can only be considered if there truly is a hardship. You know, if the applicant is outside of, they don't have a place to live, or they're, like I said, they have to restructure their home that they're already living in, and that's not the case. They just have to come up with a plan that meets the standards. And the neighbors that said, you know, 50 feet would be great, are not neighbors that are adjacent, and they're seasonal neighbors. And I think that makes a big difference. So that's my comment on that. I'm just asking why the variance is being considered, because it's really not a hardship and doesn't meet the state standards.
Would you like me to address that?
Yeah, sure, if you want to.
So this is not a zoning dimensional setback from the zoning code. This is a design standards variance. Design standards variances do not contain those same statutory requirements.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that clarification, but I think also it is supposed to meet the standard setbacks of the area homes in line with it. And it's pretty, I think, it wasn't real clear, I think maybe it was from where I was sitting back there, that the current home and then the outlines of the adjacent homes, it's the one that's being planned is significantly in front of the others, so it would impact, I think, the neighbors to the east, the neighbors to the west primarily. And, you know, I think that's an important, you know, that it may not be the numbers in terms of who is concerned about this, but it is the adjacent neighbors.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next person that would like to speak.
My name is John Slamster, 3080 Lake Rest Lane, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I'd like to mention that I realize sooner or later something's going to be built on the property at 3074 Lake Rest. However, in the beginning, we understood this to be a single-story ranch for mobility. Now it's looking like a huge two-story home, which will extremely block our view of the Bay of Lake Winnebago. And we're also concerned about the impact value that it would have on our home due to the decreased view of the bay. The people that were in agreement to build this home, 5 that were mentioned, I don't know who the 2 are, but 3 of them, I'd like to mention several things. Number 1, it would have no change in their view of the lake and the Bay of Lake Winnebago. 2, none of these 3 are residents of the city of Oshkosh. And 3, their homes are basically, like was mentioned, seasonal dwellings, not year-round dwellings. Also, keeping in line with the other homes, it would promote a more attractive subdivision. And as a homeowner and property owner in the city of Oshkosh, I depend on the city of Oshkosh zoning committee to protect, develop, and maintain proper values of the property. I would like to read a statute that was similar to what was mentioned originally. Require that the property owner must prove an unnecessary hardship by demonstrating that strict compliance with the zoning ordinance would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose and leave the owner with no reasonable use of the property. No such hardship exists in this case, as the owner can build within the existing setbacks. And in conclusion, I just want to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I guess not. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Okay, next person that wants to speak?
It's Bruce Michael Salmons, 1845 Walnut Street. Couple things I need to address, I believe. Number 1, this is not going to be a cottage. I already have a cottage next door of the property going the other way. This is going to be my retirement home. Had I been able to build last year, I had my residence sold at 1845 Walnut Street in Oshkosh. A lady wanted to buy it in the worst way. But it's strictly a retirement home. I've been fortunate enough in my lifetime to be able to enjoy part of my retirement in Arizona in the wintertime. My wife has some health issues in her lungs, so Arizona works good for us in the wintertime. Strictly summer residence. Hopefully, I'm 77 years old and I'm hoping to get a few more years out of this situation. That being said, when they asked me to show what do you call the picture of the house, that's the only one I had. That was the original house. We've since decided to cut off the second floor. We decided we didn't need it. We had to condense it in size to get in that easement area. We've had a real hard time with this easement thing. That's the main reason I'm asking to move ahead 2 more feet. It gives me the comfort to know I'm not going to be near that easement, because we had a on-site meeting out there, and I was told that if I got into that easement area, I would have big-time problems. I don't want big-time problems. I just want to build a house and retire with my wife. I enjoy it out there. We love it out there. But it's not going to be 3,000 feet. It'll probably end up about 2,100 feet when we get done. We don't need it. I made a vow every time I come out of the basement, I take one thing that I don't need anymore, and there's a lot of things down there. Without a basement, we were gonna have second floor storage, and I said, let's just get rid of the stuff we don't need. But I don't wanna stir up a big mess, harmful situation. I just wanna build a house, but I don't wanna be into that easement, whatever I do. I'm very concerned and worried about being in that easement, so by moving ahead to 50 feet, that gives me 2 more feet of insurance that I won't be in that easement. But it's not gonna be anything more than a house, that's all it is. It's gonna have 2 bathrooms, 2 bedrooms. So, I'm in the plumbing business, so might even be a 3rd bathroom if I can get it someplace. But I thank you for your time.
Okay, just a minute, I have a question,
Oh,
sir.
sorry.
There was some concern, where I think your earlier plans showed a second floor.
Yes.
Now you're saying it's going to be a ranch style
We're
one.
pretty much talked it over. What it was gonna be on the 2nd floor was 1 bedroom and 1 bath. And the whole rest of the house, the remainder of the 2nd floor, including over the bathroom, if you look at I don't know, what do you call it, site plan or
Site plan.
bring that house up, that shows the house. Not that one, the actual picture of the,
Elevation.
that one. Okay, start with the lower level. We had to actually move the garage to the other side of the dwelling. The porch will no longer be there. It'll be on the side. We decided to take the 2nd floor off. Like the front, this is the rear view. This is the way that faces the channel of the garage in. The front part of the 2nd floor was gonna be 1 bedroom, 1 bath. And then the remainder of that, all including over the garage, would have been storage to hold more junk, I guess. But, originally, when I went to start a year ago, they told me I had to go to zoning first. I went to zoning. They actually said, everything's okay. I went across to the building inspector. About a week and a half later, I stopped up and talked to him. And he said, well, you gotta go back to zoning. So I'm back to zoning. They said, well, we've changed your address. I said, why? Because we did. So I said, what does that mean? That means you have to come out the side of the property. So if I had come into the side, I would have turned my vehicle to line up with the garage, so I had to push it up to 30 feet. That's how we got up at 30 feet. I didn't want to build at 30 feet, but that's what I had to do. The day, I think before the last variance, I got a phone call from the city zoning and said, we decided you can go out the way the driveway used to go out. So that enabled me to back up. Then I ran into the easement. The easement, originally, if you read the document on the easement, there was a 30-foot construction easement. I talked to Jerry Conrad, I've known him for years, he was the director of public works. He says that was strictly a construction easement from when we came in to put the sewer and water in. Inside that 30-foot, there was a temporary construction. Inside of that, there was a permanent 20-foot. I was told the 30 never goes away. Jerry Conrad said, it goes away when we're done constructing sewer and water and move out of the project. So, but that being said, they said I have to stay out of that 5-foot construction easement. That's what I'm trying to do. And by moving ahead to 50 feet, that gives me 2 more feet of reassurance that I'm not gonna be in their variance.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's basically all I can tell you about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Next person, please.
Madam Chair, may I just
Oh,
raise
excuse me, John, you had a question of.
No, I just want to raise a point of order. What we're discussing today is only for the placement of the home on the site. It says right in the conditions that this has not, the design will come back through us. So we're not deciding on a design today or talking about the design. We're talking about the placement of the home.
Correct. This is a design standards request for the placement of the home only. It would not, if it was code compliant, it would not need to come back to you for design of the actual structure.
Okay, now, next person. Well, please come to the podium because the TV people can't hear you.
Hi, I'm Joan Ritmanich. 3072 Lake Rest Lane would be right next door to Mike and Rosemary, the lot. Right next door. Our house is 2-story. question for you. At Gary's, our other neighbor, had a little meeting last Thursday. And I asked you, what's the square footage of your house? And you told me 1,800 square feet. I said, is it a ranch, was my understanding that you had mentioned, because of Rosemary's difficulties, that it would be a ranch when the city came out to look at it. And you said to me, no, that it was never a ranch, it's a two-story at Gary's meeting. So I guess there's a change from last Thursday now to today, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
I'll put it in writing, have it noted.
Okay, I'm just questioning.
Please address comments to the board.
Oh, I was just questioning that fact, that, my understanding you were considering a ranch, and then last Thursday, you said, no, it was always a two-story. So now you're saying it's a ranch?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that
Thanks for
clarifies.
asking that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and you, somebody else new to speak. You have a chance at the end for the applicant. Anybody else in the audience that has not spoken and is not the applicant that wishes to speak? Anybody else want to speak? You've already spoken, sir. Do we bring somebody else up again, or I don't think so?
That would be up to the board.
We'll ask the applicant to come back. You do have an opportunity now.
Bruce Michael Salmon, 1845 Walnut. There was discussion about the old cottage. The old cottage was a summer cottage. It was what they call balloon construction. There isn't, the 2x4s ran from one floor to the second. It was a fire hazard. My son and I tore it down. It was infested with black carpenter ants. The beam underneath the house had 2 old-time car jacks holding it up. I mean, the thing was a big fire hazard. And it was said it was out of the easement area. It was not in the easement area. If I would have went to even think about getting a building permit, I know I would have been denied. The easement area was put in with the house existing. So when you go to try to do anything, I didn't want to do with any, there's nothing that was savable on that house. The gentleman owned it, Herb Pokrant, used to park his car just short of the front of the house, and the back of his car actually hung out over the road. That's how close it was to the south road, but it was just a fire trap.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we'll close the public comment period then. And commission, we need a motion before we can discuss.
A motion to adopt the findings as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, now, discussion on the motion. John?
I have a question actually for Mark. It doesn't say anything in the recommendation or the conditions that we have on here, or anything about the 50 or 52 feet, so what is?
So
where
you
we-
can add that to it. Staff was reviewing it at the 52 feet that was originally submitted. He's asking, it sounds like, to go down to 50 feet. This board could make that determination if you want 50 or 52.
If we just do this as it is, it's 52 feet, correct?
52 would, but we would hold them to that was the original submittal.
More discussion?
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm looking at all of the properties to the west, I believe, and none of them have front yards. And this property in particular, you may have already gone over this, but it has quite the expansive front yard, which primarily is a driveway. I'm just wondering why there wasn't or isn't an avenue to even cut that protruding section in back in half by shifting the property south and having it be more consistent with the rest of that block in terms of front yard.
Are you asking that of staff or the applicant?
Yes. I guess you first, if you have an answer.
Yeah. So when staff reviewed it, it becomes very narrow there to meet the easement lines and the required setbacks. In our opinion, it becomes almost to an unreasonable width at that point. Could it be done? Most definitely. If somebody was okay with a very narrow structure, that could be done. Staff looked at it, the reasonable buildable width, felt it was appropriate to consider the variance.
Okay.
Was there for the applicant? I mean, did they give a rationale for having to have such a significant setback? And it's significant, it's relative, right? In most of the developments, it's not significant, but just compared to the neighbors.
Yeah, the reason we had been given during this process was that they were trying to maintain a certain amount of width of building.
John, did you want to make a motion to amend? To reduce the setback to 50 feet?
It seems like reading through the things, and I know that there's discussion over who was who and who agreed with the 50 feet on that and whatnot, but it seems like the majority of them that we saw in there, so, I mean, I think I would like to make a motion to amend it to 50 feet.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mike seconded. Any more discussion on the amendment? Okay, then we'll vote on the amendment to reduce the setback to 50 feet. Roll call.
So we're doing just the amendment?
Right, only the amendment.
Okay. Hintz?
Aye.
Kulabali?
Aye.
Davy?
No.
Ford?
Aye.
Kiefer? Sorry, he's not here. Mitchell?
No.
Perry?
Aye.
Stengel?
Aye.
Prop?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll add a fifth condition for 50 feet would be the fifth condition of the property.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Plan Commission? John?
I'd just like to say one thing, and I understand that there are issues with losing sight lines because I live on Parkway Avenue, and there's a big brick house that was moved there by Silas Anderson about 30 years ago that took away every single property on Parkway Avenue to be sold as a Lakeview property. So and that was done legally. Everything was by the book. And all of a sudden we have this monstrosity of a 3-story home that's there. So I do understand that, but I also understand there's progress, and he's obviously trying to work with the neighborhood. He's not trying to just plop something in there. He's got, from what I've seen, the petitioner's gone over and above, so I will definitely be supporting this.
I just want to say I appreciate the staff and the applicant and the neighbors working together as best they could. Really appreciate it. Well, we'll call the roll.
Hintz?
Aye.
Kulabali?
Aye.
Davy?
Aye.
Ford?
Aye.
Mitchell?
Aye.
I can hear you one more time. Justin, one more time. Sorry, you cut out.
Aye, sorry.
Thank you. Perry?
Aye.
He said aye, right?
Correct.
Stengel?
Aye.
And Prop?
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0 as amended.
Okay. Next item is residential design standards variance to allow a side light closure on the front facade at 1027 Mount Vernon Street. Were there any site inspections?
I think on Mount Vernon.
Just
Couple?
Davy? Or just Marty?
The chair will accept the staff report as part of the record, and staff go ahead with a summary.
All right, thanks, Chairperson. Okay, so item number 3 is a residential design standards variance to allow a side light closure on the front facade. The address is 1027 Mount Vernon Street. So the code reference is the existing door openings on front facade shall not be closed or filled. So the subject site is a residential lot. It's just under 8,000 square feet in area. It contains a single-family residential structure that's about 1,366 square feet in size, and the structure was built in 1903. The surrounding properties are consistent with the subject site, zoned as a two-family or two-flat residential TR10 zoning district. And staff believes that the surrounding properties are similar in architectural character as the subject site. So the applicant visited our office in July 2020, and they were coming in because they had a violation notice sent from the inspections department about work that they were already starting. The project is including an enclosed porch. Here's a picture from Google Maps. I know that the siding is a different color now. You'll see it in the next photo, but so the project is for the enclosed porch. They're doing window replacements and door replacement as well as the 2 side lights. Let's see here. So the city's zoning ordinance establishes design standards for single and 2-family homes with the overall purpose and intent to maintain the basic architectural quality of residences within the community, to minimize adverse impacts on adjacent properties and neighborhoods resulting from architectural and building construction practices that may detract from the character and appearance of the neighborhood as a whole, and to ensure compatible design between existing and new homes. So the applicant is removing and closing the side lights adjacent to the door. However, the proposed front windows are also being changed out, but they're not changing in any substantial size. They're changing less than 10%, so we're not really talking about the windows. Let's see. So the door is increasing in size slightly, and that also reduces the amount that the side lights are reducing or being closed. So you can see the chart at the bottom here. It kind of helps you understand it better. So the door is getting larger in width, and then the 2 side lights are being completely closed off, decreasing by about 54%. So they're completely being closed. They'll be consistent with the existing siding, and they'll have kind of like a white frame around it. So staff evaluated the project's impact on the design of the home as it relates to the purpose and intent of the residential design standards. And working with the applicant, staff considered the intention of the ordinance, architectural features, information provided by the applicant. And after we evaluated it, staff is supportive of the variance request and believes that this work will not compromise the integrity of the house. We also believe that the new design will complement the architectural style found in the neighborhood, and we think it could add value to the home because they're replacing all the windows and doing a consistent look with the rest of the house. So staff recommends approval of the variance from the design standards ordinance to allow the side light closure. And so this will only be for the side light closure. Any other work would have to come back to this group.
Okay, thank you. Technical questions? Any technical questions?
It's not a technical question. I'm the homeowner.
Yep,
Yeah, just a minute.
Yeah, we'll get you.
There aren't, I guess we're done with technical questions, so now we do want you to come forward.
We're ahead of us.
Yeah, we're getting a jump on us.
Hi, I'm the homeowner, Pete, I call 1027 Mount Vernon Street. I've been a licensed contractor in the state for years. I got my contractor here actually because I now run a different management facility. But the reason we want to take the side lights out is the porch structurally, the way that the people bought, when I bought the house, put those storm windows in, it's on a 1x1 system, which has no load bearing on those walls. To remove the side lights, we were able to put in shoulders and actually carry the weight of the porch, structurally amending the porch. And then, like I said, aesthetically, I've talked to a lot of my neighbors. They love it because I fixed up the house, the nicest on the blocks right now. But this is just one step further to enhancing the curb appeal and turning this into a usable space instead of just kind of a dead cold porch. So, but I just wanted to enhance in there that we will stay with the same. We're going to put 5 windows back in the front, like the planning commission, the zoning commission talked about. We really just want to frame it on the side of the door to have more structural integrity to that porch to carry the load of the roof and enhance the actual structure. So.
Okay, good. Any questions? I guess not. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak on this item? Anybody else want to speak? Okay, back to the commission. We've just heard from the applicant. We'll close the comment period. We need a motion, commission.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing no I think this will improve the property. Thank you, I appreciate it. We'll call for the vote then.
Hintz,
Aye.
Kulabali,
Aye.
Davy,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
Stengel,
Aye.
Prop.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
Item 4, accept sidewalk, curb, conduit, and electric pole block easement at 149 West 24th. Any site inspections? Couple? The chair will accept staff report as part of the record. Go ahead, staff.
Thank you. The Department of Public Works is requesting acceptance of an easement to allow placement of sidewalk, street curb, and electrical facilities at the northwest corner of 149 West 24th. On the screen, I have an aerial showing the subject property and the proposed easement area. The subject site contains a 15-unit apartment building located at the southeast corner of West 24th and Oregon. The city is proposing to accept a triangular 15-foot wide along 24th by 20-foot wide along Oregon Street, a triangular easement approximately 150 square feet in size. Currently, the easement area will occur in what's currently green space located behind the existing sidewalk. The city is planning to install public sidewalk, curb, and electrical pole box and underground conduit and associated wires within this easement. This work is related to the Oregon Street Reconstruction project that's currently underway. After the facilities are installed, the city will have continued access rights within the easement to maintain the installed facilities. The city has been working with the property owner, which has agreed to grant the easement, and the attorney's office is working on the necessary easement documents, and once signed and approved by the Common Council, the easement will be recorded at the Winnebago County Register of Deeds. With that, staff is recommending approval of acceptance of the proposed sidewalk, street curb, and electrical facility easement as requested.
Okay, any technical questions? Seeing no technical questions, there is no applicant. I'll ask for public comment. Is there any public comment on this item? No public comment? Okay, seeing none, back to the commission. We need a motion, commission?
I'll make a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll call a roll.
Hintz,
Aye.
Kulabali,
Aye.
Davy,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
Stengel,
Aye.
Prop.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
Okay, item 5, authorization to acquire property and dedicate right-of-way needed for street reconstruction and sidewalk installation on West 9th Avenue from Graceland Drive to Linden Oaks Drive. Were there any site inspections? Okay, the chair will accept staff report as part of the record. Go ahead, staff, with a summary.
Thank you. This request is part of the city's proposed reconstruction of West 9th Avenue from South Oakwood Road to Linden Oaks Drive, which includes sidewalk installation, and sidewalk installation on the north side of West 9th Avenue from Graceland Drive to Greenfield Trail. The city had a transportation plat prepared to begin the acquisition of land, dedicate public right-of-way, and acquire temporary limited easements required for the project. There are this request involves two segments of West 9th Avenue. I'm going to talk about the first one, which is the north side of Graceland Drive. I'm sorry, the north side of West 9th Avenue from Graceland Drive to Greenfield Terrace for sidewalk installation. This block on the north side is the only block that does not currently have sidewalks, so you can call it a gap where no sidewalk is currently located. This request will affect 3 properties. The proposed acquisition and dedication for each of the properties involves a 7-foot wide by 100-foot long and 700 square foot strip of land adjacent to West 9th Avenue. This area will be acquired, or is proposed to be acquired by the city and then dedicated as right-of-way. And then later this year, it's proposed that sidewalk construction would occur along this block, essentially filling in the gap east and west of the subject site, and placing a sidewalk at a consistent distance with the sidewalk to the east and west of the area. The second request is similar to the first. However, this also, in addition to the construction of sidewalk, this will be involve the reconstruction of West 9th Avenue. Currently, I have 2 air photos showing the subject area. The areas in blue are the subject sites affected. There's 26 properties in total. Again, this will be, the city's proposing to acquire an additional 7 feet of right-of-way, making a 9th Avenue an 80-foot right-of-way overall from the existing 66-foot right-of-way. The next slide. And this is west of the current, the previous area I showed you, showing the additional right-of-way, or proposed right-of-way, and land acquisitions. In 2021, the city has scheduled the reconstruction of West 9th Avenue west of South Oakwood Road to Linden Oaks Drive. In my staff report, I mentioned that the proposed construction will be for a 4-lane street. I was just informed that the Common Council has directed city staff that at this time it will not be a 4-lane street. It will be a 48-foot wide concrete road, but there will be parking on both sides and bike lanes on both sides and 2 roadways. At a later date, as needs arise for increased traffic movement, it could be converted to 2 4-lane roadways. The reconstruction of West 9th Avenue is scheduled for 2021 and is included in the draft 2021 capital improvement program. And in your staff report, these are all the transportation plat drawings that were drafted for the city to begin the acquisition process of the land and dedication of the right-of-way. Staff is supportive of the proposed acquisitions. The sidewalk installation between Graceland Drive and Greenfield Trail will fill in that missing gap of sidewalk on the north side and allow pedestrians not to have to walk on the terrace or in the street, increasing pedestrian safety. And the reconstruction of 9th Avenue west of Oakwood will turn that current really poor shaped roadway from a rural roadway to a road with city standards, curb and gutter, and sidewalk on both sides. So staff is in support of these acquisitions and right-of-way dedications as presented.
Technical questions, anyone? I have one. In the first section, over the Graceland section.
Mhm.
Yeah, there. There is already enough right-of-way at 2024 and whatever that other couple of properties are.
Correct.
They're not shown.
Correct.
So there's sufficient
There-
right-of-ways
Yeah, there's
to
a bit of
build a complete sidewalk.
There's
Correct.
a bit of a sawtooth in the right-of-way. As development happened over the years, some properties right-of-way was dedicated, some wasn't. Some already have the full 80 feet, for example, 23, 24 already has that 7 feet.
What
These
happened?
properties in the middle already have it.
Yeah, the property on the west side, when that subdivision was platted, the city's comprehensive plan recommended the 80-foot roadway along West 9th Avenue. So at that time, we acquired the full 40 feet north of the center line there. And then the 2 properties, those 2, those were divided by CSM. I'm not sure how long ago, but at that time, it was still identified for West 9th Avenue to have the 40-foot right-of-way on the north side. So at that time, we requested the full right-of-way dedication. So those were done in the past already, so it's no longer required.
It's been the long-range plan of the city to move this to an 80-foot wide right-of-way for urbanization of that roadway. So as projects came throughout the years, we acquired that right away we could. Now we're at the time where the roadway is ready to be reconstructed, so we're trying to get the last pieces taken care of.
Okay, and I believe you said that it will be done, this full 80-foot right-of-way will be available at such time as the Common Council wants to make a 4-lane.
That,
Eventually, if they want to create a 4-lane road there.
yeah, that's for the section west of South Oakwood. When the city reconstructs this section, it'll be a 48-foot wide roadway, but only 2 lanes of traffic will be striped
Okay.
initially. It'll have parking on both sides and bike lanes on both sides. And then as traffic needs increase, the city could, at the council's discretion, restripe that roadway to 4 actual lanes of traffic.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
the
I'm
pavement
just,
width-
making sure that there's sufficient room here to do that eventually should the need arise.
Correct.
So the
Okay.
proposed pavement width is wide enough to accommodate both configurations. The
Okay.
proposal is to stripe it with parking, bike lanes. If traffic volume should increase to a point where the city needed 2 travel lanes in each direction, it could be restriped to that.
Like what's shown on
Okay.
the screen, that's what it could look like down the road, no pun intended.
Okay,
But
thank you.
initially, just 2 lanes, parking and bike lanes on both sides.
Yeah. Any other technical questions? Seeing none, we'll open public comment. Anybody want to comment on this item? Anybody here to speak on this item? Go ahead, please.
James Brookhart, 2955 West 9th Avenue. I guess the one question I have is, right now they're proposing 10.5 feet of terrace on both sides, and I had talked to Justin a little bit about this, and he indicated that that's necessary for snow removal width of 48 feet. The whole south side of West 9th has very large trees. I have a couple of 30-inch diameter oaks that are going to land right in the middle of where the easement's going to be proposed to now. I guess I'm wondering why there isn't any consideration of moving the sidewalk just a hair closer to the street to avoid cutting down all these big trees and maybe saving cost. That's my question I got, so.
Okay. Yes, is there somebody from Public Works to?
James is coming up.
Yes.
Question about, could the sidewalk be closer because there's some large mature trees there?
Yes, the proposal for the right-of-way is to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. When it comes to the actual construction and design, we do look to work around large trees. If they're right where the sidewalk would go, we would shift around until such time in the future as maybe those weren't there anymore, then we could straighten it out. But we do often and frequently look to adjust the sidewalk as necessary around obstructions such as large mature trees.
Okay, wonderful. What would the process be?
It would just be done during our design. There's no official process. We would review
Okay.
that as a part of our design and make the necessary adjustments during the design phase.
Okay, and how would the property owner know it was time to discuss it with you? Would someone from Public Works stop by a house?
As we get closer to construction, certainly there are going to be people out there. Certainly as we move through the design phase, at this point in time, the design phase is not far enough along to be able to give any of those answers, but
Okay.
like I said, we do work around things such as large trees quite frequently. You know, if you drive around parts of the city, you'll see sidewalk going along and, you know, jogging along. Take Murdoch Avenue as an example out by Century Oaks. That sidewalk went around all of those large trees when it was installed. So it is common practice for us to do that.
Okay, all right, thank you. So applicant, contact Public Works when you start seeing activity there. And not applicant, commenter. Any other questions? Any more public comment? Okay, we'll close the public comment period. The applicant doesn't need any more statements. We need a motion. Motion, folks.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Who was that second? Sorry.
I think Justin.
Justin?
Sure.
Thank
Question then.
Okay, sure. Now, discussion on the motion.
So when a resident comes and has a concern such as that, and you know, staff said a particular thing, and I'm confident that Mr. Avi, you know, will follow through on that. But is it ever appropriate for us to then add a condition onto something like this that states that staff will work with residents to maintain, you know, existing mature tree canopy as able or as possible, or do we just always kind of take the word for it?
Once the property is dedicated, it no longer has purview of plan commission to have conditions attached to it once it becomes the public right of way. Typically in situations, we do just that. We make sure we reiterate to city staff, this is what we're looking for. We highly suggest the property owners in the city, make sure you contact Public Works as these projects move forward, but we can't condition it because it's no longer property that is able to be conditioned.
Mark, and if I may add to that,
Sure.
all of our design projects are coordinated with the city forester, so he reviews the condition of all of the trees and makes recommendations to us to, you know what, this tree's in good shape, save it. This tree's gonna die in a few years, just take it out now. So all of our design projects are coordinated with the city forester with that in mind.
Okay, that's good to hear. Okay, any other questions or discussion? And we'll call the roll.
Hints.
Aye.
Kulabali.
Aye.
Davy.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Mitchell.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Stengel.
Aye.
Prop.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
Next item is a public hearing, conditional use permit request for a communication tower at 1620 Pelton Parkway. Any site inspections? The chair will accept staff report as part of the record.
I've been there for that one.
Go ahead, staff. I decided not to go.
All right, so this is a request for a new cell tower. The subject property is located within the EAA airport grounds. The property is zoned institutional district, which requires a conditional use permit for a communication tower. So here's a view of the subject property. The property is accessed via Foundation Road, which is a private road within the airport site. Here's a closer view of the site. There is two existing cell towers to the southeast of the subject site. And again, it's accessed from a private road, which is Foundation Road. So here's the site plan. The site plan does meet all applicable setbacks and impervious surface requirements, as well as the cell tower height maximum in the code, which is 200 feet, when the cell tower is proposed with an overall height of 80 feet. So the cell tower will be within a enclosed area and will include other ancillary equipment. It will have fencing around it, which will be 6 foot tall, solid fencing. The applicant has stated it will be either wood or vinyl, and code does require that it be enclosed with solid fencing or meet the 0.4 opacity requirement. It will be accessed from a gravel drive to the fenced-in area, which will be fully gravelled. Here is a view of the cell tower. So on the right, you can see kind of the profile of the tower. Again, it'll have a 80-foot overall height to the tower. The FAA did review and approve the height and location of the cell tower. And staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit for the communication tower with the condition that the final fencing plan be reviewed and approved by the Department of Community Development.
Okay, technical questions? John?
As with other towers that come in, this one will be able to be used by other services as well in the future, correct? It's not just a strictly AT&T tower?
I believe they are required to allow some of that access.
And that's just, I'm just making sure of that because, you know, that part of their argument is that AT&T is the busiest carrier and it's like, well, they're all gonna end up using it.
believe the applicant is here, who
Correct.
could answer those questions too.
Yeah, they have to meet the typical FAA standards. As we, most planning commission know, these are highly regulated through
Right.
federal government. Our overview is relatively minor. We do have to issue conditional use permit. We can check things like the fencing standards. But in large, these are federally regulated.
Any other technical questions? We'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to speak?
Good afternoon. My name is Andy Fitz. I'm with Mastech Network Solutions here on behalf of AT&T as the petitioner. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Staff did an excellent job summarizing the specifics of the project. I also have Andrew Flowers with me as a senior real estate manager with AT&T to answer any other specific questions. But if you have anything further that you'd like to know about the project, I'd be happy to go into detail on it.
Any questions?
Was I correct that other services will be able to use the tower as well? It's not just a one carrier tower?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak?
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Flowers. I am the Senior Real Estate and Construction Manager for AT&T for Illinois, Wisconsin. And my job is to oversee this facility and many others within the state of Wisconsin and Illinois. We've worked, actually I personally worked with the EAA with the request that they had last year to increase capacity and needs for the events that they have on properties, specifically the one that they usually have in August. We have several other facilities in the area that have already been upgraded. The existing site that we have in this area cannot be upgraded to the point to hold the sheer amount of antennas and equipment that we need to have. This is a very unique site because of the huge volume of calls and people streaming videos and things like that at any one time. And we've also had the ability to increase the height of the facility to help cover other parts of EAA that they asked us to cover when they have their events also. So I can answer any technical questions, but also to answer your question in regards to the other carriers. Yes, the tower will be built for up to 4 RAD centers. AT&T is actually going to take 2 RAD centers on this tower, which, two different platforms, because we have so much equipment that needs to be up and over the tree line or as close to the top of the tree line as possible. But there will be 2 other centers available for anybody else that needs it. And we have agreements with all the major carriers to lease out space if that they so desire. So, okay.
Okay.
Just
Another
one more,
question,
just
Joe?
real quick, is this gonna, okay, this will affect actually, there are some people who do happen to live out in that area too. I mean, how far out is that gonna extend to help? That'd be all year round, I would imagine, right?
It's going to be all year round. Actually, the facility that's being built, most of the signal strength will actually stay on the airport and EAA property. So it will not, it'll propagate out a little bit, but it's really mainly for the events on property. We have several other facilities around the airport and along the expressway that have been upgraded just recently.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's anybody that has specific problems, let me know so I can poke the right guys to get it fixed. So.
Thank you.
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
I just,
Uh,
typically
Art?
EAA has a couple of temporary towers. They got a name for them, and I can't remember what it's
Cows.
called. Thank you.
Yes.
Will this reduce the need for those, or do you think you'll still need those?
So typically we bring in an extra, what we call a cow, which is communication on wheels for the events. And we will still need that facility, but where it gets placed will probably be moved, because that tower is typically used closer to the airfield, which doesn't need the same restrictions that it needs for the permanent towers. And all the merchants use that facility also for their credit card machines and things like that.
Okay.
So we will still need one, but it's probably gonna be moved from where it's been for the last, I don't know, probably the last 6 years, I think I put one in there, so, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? I guess not. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else that wants to speak to this item? Is there somebody way back there?
Yep, he's coming.
Good evening, my name is Kevin Pollard. I'm an attorney for SBA Communications. SBA owns the existing, or one of the existing cell towers located at 525 West 20th Avenue. And the existing tower is approximately, by our calculation, less than 50 feet away from the site of the new tower being proposed. SBA does object to the construction of the new tower and for this conditional use permit. For several reasons. One of the reasons is from our understanding is that there's really no need for this additional tower. AT&T has been located or had their equipment located on the existing tower since 2000, and this tower is going to provide essentially the same radio frequency coverage, placing their equipment on the new tower versus the existing tower. To the extent, and I heard Mr. Flowers from AT&T mention that they might be seeking to place additional equipment or have an additional RAD center. But SBA did obtain permission from the FAA to increase the height of the existing tower to 79 feet, which would enable additional equipment to be placed on the existing tower. And so again, there's really no need for a duplicative tower, especially in such close proximity to the airport. So that being said, from a legal standpoint, we believe that the application must be denied because it doesn't comply with the state statute 660404. And both the state statute and the local city ordinance, section 30.83, require that when an applicant is seeking a permit to construct a new mobile service structure, the applicant is required to provide a sworn statement from an individual who has responsibility over the placement of a support structure, attesting that co-location within the applicant's search ring would not result in the same mobile service functionality, coverage, and capacity, is technically infeasible, or is economically burdensome to the mobile service provider. To our knowledge, that affidavit has not been filed with this application. So on that basis alone, the application doesn't meet the requirements of the state statute or the ordinance. Also, under the state statute, the city may deny the application where the applicant hasn't evaluated the feasibility of co-location on the existing tower. And again, we're not aware of the reason why there would be a benefit on the new tower, particularly when we have the ability to extend it. So for those reasons, we do object to the new tower. We just think it's unnecessary, and we're certainly able to accommodate AT&T's additional on the existing tower.
Okay, I have a question. You are a competitor, is that correct?
Well,
with the masks here, it's hard for me to hear.
We're not a competitor of AT&T. Like I said, AT&T, we're essentially a cell tower landlord of AT&T. So, we'd be a competitor of I suppose, of Mastech, the applicant. We have an existing tower, and our competitor is seeking to put a tower right next door. But again, the state statute is designed to promote co-location on existing mobile service towers to avoid unnecessary establishment of duplicative towers in close proximity to each other.
And how far did you say it was?
By my calculation, it's 0.0029 miles, which to me looks like it's less than 20 feet. If my math is correct.
Well, you'll have an opportunity to speak again, sir.
I have a map which I can.
We have the site plan up here that kind of shows where other towers are located in the area.
So I believe we're the tower on the east side of 20th Avenue there.
There's two existing 50-foot monopoles according to the site plan.
And so we just recently had approval from FAA to extend our monopole to 79.
Okay, I'm unclear about where the applicant's tower is and where your tower is right here.
Applicant's tower? 2 existing towers.
2 existing towers, right next to each other. Which have been coexisting just fine, the 2, yours and your neighbor's.
As far as I know, yeah.
So why would there be an issue with the 3rd tower if those 2 are?
Well, I mean, the state statute requires when a mobile service provider is seeking to construct a new tower, the state statute requires that applicant to first evaluate whether they can put that equipment on an existing tower. And we have an existing tower that can be extended to accommodate that equipment. And so the application doesn't meet the requirements of the state statute.
Okay.
Mark, do we have any input from the city attorney on that?
We do not. We could, between now and council, we could ask for clarification from them.
Yeah.
Is there a question from, who was that virtually, is there somebody that wanted to talk? No?
It was me, Mamadou.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Mamadou.
Mamadou?
No, I said it was me, Mamadou, who tried to speak. Yeah, I was just wondering who were the owner of the other towers, and I do believe that based on what we just heard, we need to make sure we are out of the legal issues for granting the new tower.
I'm sorry, I also didn't understand Mamadou's comment, who he's talking to. And Mark is busy writing.
He's just asking to make sure that we verify if the legal requirements are met.
Okay. Any other questions here? I just have a comment. It's my understanding that we are severely limited in the Plan Commission in what we can do to deny requests like this. And so as one Plan Commissioner, I'm apt to defer this to the City Council because by then we'll have some legal advice for the city. I don't think we've ever had somebody come in and complain about an adjacent tower. It's in my experience here.
You do have a statement from ATT and Mobility that discusses some of this information. Item 4.
Okay. You want to read
If
that?
there's no time issue related to the matter, yeah, I would support what was just said about waiting for legal clarification on it.
There's also item 6 in that sworn statement that you have that does also talk about existing towers.
Yes, item 6 says this individual attests that there is no additional suitable existing tower to replace the site because they're not close enough to the area and don't meet the engineering standard required to service this area.
Then item 7 further does where the statement
Without the
in
new
reference
tower.
to the code.
Yeah. Made pursuant, sworn statement made pursuant to the following. AT&T has assessed the feasibility of co-locating on other towers in the area, has determined there are no viable candidates that would result in the same or better mobile service functionality as the new tower. So we do have this sworn statement, sir, and we're happy to give you copies of it.
Yeah.
So that you can use it in your defense later.
Would you like a copy?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, no, staff just received that, I believe, yesterday, so it's not included in the online submittal materials.
Okay. Any other questions of this gentleman? Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else wanting to speak to this item before I call the applicant forward? Anybody else wants to speak to this item? Okay, then we'll ask for a closing statement from the applicant, one of you, or both of you.
I'll go down the list of things that my colleague from SBA brought to your attention. So we're approximately 200 feet, about northwest of the SBA existing site. That facility, as it stands today, is not workable for the new antennas that AT&T put on here. These are not standard antennas like you would see driving down the expressway. And you're looking at an antenna that is 12 inches wide, 6 feet high, 8 feet high, and they look like like a giant rectangle. The antennas that we've been specifically asked to put on the facility from EAA are what are called masting antennas. They are giant golf balls. So the golf ball would actually be about the size of this round table if it was actually round. There's 2 of those. Each one of those antennas is about 1,200 pounds a piece. So when you start adding that onto the facility, plus the huge amount of radios and the regular antennas that need to be used for the other frequencies that AT&T has, there really is no other suitable facility that is these other 2 towers that are sitting right there for us to even use, because you'd have to basically tear out the tower and start from scratch, because the foundations alone have to be almost double the size. The tower strength has to be almost double the strength that a normal tower has to be. And on top of that, this facility is going to be built so it has the ability to have AT&T at 2 of these centers, plus 2 more carriers that can put their equipment on that facility. So those requests came directly from EAA about increasing the capacity. Some people have asked, what is a masting antenna? The masting antennas, if you look at a regular antenna, they usually have 3 to 5 beams of radio frequencies coming out of them, depending on what type of antennas they are. Depending on the antennas that we will put in here, they will have somewhere between 15 and 20 beams coming out of them. So they literally be able to hold thousands of phone calls and videos all at the same time. So that's what the request is. That's one of the reasons why the engineering standards are not able to be met at the existing facilities. Additionally, we did not put it in the statement because we felt as though the technical issues that are required to build this facility were enough merit on their own, but the financial implications of having to tear a tower down and build a new one is hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. Additionally, the rent that AT&T is currently paying at the facility is approximately 3 to 5 times the amount of rent that's typically paid at a facility of this size. And we will be taking up 2 rad centers. So that basically our rent would actually double because we're taking up 2 sections on the tower as opposed to 1. That's one of the reasons why we worked with EAA and went down the path of building a new facility. We actually did get approval to build the tower higher. EAA actually asked us to build it shorter because they have a helicopter route that runs through there. They do not want the antennas to be that high. So it says 80 feet. The reality is there's a lightning route at the top. So the tower is actually not 80 feet tall. So, having another tower that would be in the close to the 80-foot range is probably not going to be very acceptable to EAA for their flyovers that they have with the helicopters. Andy, what else was I missing, bud?
I was just going to touch on state statute.
Come
Okay.
forward if he wants to say anything.
Any other technical questions before I hand it back to Andy?
That's is synonymous to you have looked into the possibility of putting the new equipment on the existing towers. It's just that they will not fit.
Yes, when the engineers went out to the site to do our site walks, they looked at the existing site that we were on. We have the specs for that facility, and they believed in their opinion that it's not able to be economically remodified to be reused to what we're asking for.
Margie?
And would that be possible to put that in your request so that it is documented that you have looked into that possibility?
Yeah, that should be the affidavit that you were emailed. You should have got that yesterday or this morning.
Okay, Margie, you have a question?
Where is the AT&T service coming from now?
SBA tower. It's coming from that facility right across the street.
Okay, one of the two that he was
The
discussing.
gentleman that just was up here, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And our lease actually ends, I'm going by memory, I believe it ends in next year, I believe, at that facility. So we'd have to renegotiate a new deal with SBA.
And how long does it take to build a tower?
This tower is actually on our schedule to be under construction by the end of this year, early January, and be on air for the upcoming events at EAA in 2021. So typically it'll take about 6 months from start to finish. It only takes about 2 months to actually build the facility, but then all the integration, optimization, all the other things that go with it take the extra time.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, I just wanted to add, you brought up an excellent point earlier, Madam Chairman, that the state statute sets restrictions on local municipalities when it comes to the siting of new towers. And the only thing it requires you to do is to submit an application, a set of drawings, and then the sworn statement, basically. So you have to show that you have considered co-location, and then state why it doesn't work. And there are a number of reasons that you can list. The ones that we listed in our sworn statement that Mr. Flowers attested to have to do with network coverage, and a lot of that has to do with the structural limitations and the height of the existing tower. And I'd also like to, just for the record, I think you're already aware of this, but so we had to jump through a number of hurdles to get to this point, but we received approval from the Federal Aviation Administration, from the county airport. We have a letter of recommendation from Steve Taylor from EAA. We have, of course, staff recommendation of support. And the only objection that you've heard is from the gentleman that works for the tower company that stands to lose the revenue stream that they currently have if we were to build a new tower. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any additional statements? If not, we'll close the public hearing. And Commission, we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report. To adopt. Excuse me.
Second.
Discussion on the motion, anybody? Margie?
I don't think I'm comfortable voting on this at this point. I would much rather see it go through our legal department first. So I won't be voting on it at all.
Anybody else have discussion?
I got a question. He mentioned something about EAA giving a letter of support. Where I'm not seeing that, or
I don't know if we.
in fact,
have
I don't see anything from EAA. Is Brian, the Weirbinsky, the CFO of EAA?
No, they gave it to him.
Yeah, it should be the letter that's titled EAA at the top from a Steve Taylor.
Yeah, it's there.
Should have been one of the ones that was emailed to you. Was that yesterday? Yesterday?
Separately? Okay.
Okay. As I said before, I feel that we're severely limited in legal advice should be given to the city council, not to us, so I'm going to be voting for it. Ready to vote? Call the roll.
Hints,
Aye.
Kulabali. I think you're still muted. Kulabali,
Abstain?
Davy,
Abstain?
Ford,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Stengel,
Abstain.
Prop.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, which is enough. Okay, where are we at here in our scheme of things?
Number
Now we're to the capital improvements program?
Nope.
Nope.
Number
That's
7.
what I thought, no,
Number
number
7.
5, I'm sorry, I'm
Oshkosh Avenue.
fiddling with my. Okay, yeah, no, there's a, number 7, public hearing zone change from suburban mixed-use district to one with a planned development overlay, approval of a general plan and specific plan for commercial and storage uses at 2755 Algoma Boulevard. Were there any site inspections? Chair will accept the staff report as part of the record. Go ahead, staff, while I
Thank you.
fumble for my.
And then PowerPoint.
Try now.
There we go. All right, so this is a rezone request as well as a request for GDP and SIP. Subject site is located on the west side of Algoma Boulevard. It is surrounded mostly by vacant land and cemetery land uses. The site is currently zoned SMU, and the applicant is requesting to rezone to the plan development overlay to make it so the SMU PD. Here's an aerial view of the subject site. So currently it has 4 personal storage facility buildings. It is not permitted by right in the SMU district, so it's a legal non-conforming use. It also has a commercial building, which has a collapsed roof currently. It was the former Ye Old Goat building that's on the south side of the site. The applicant is proposing to expand the legal non-conforming personal storage facility use with a 5th storage building, and also to reconstruct that existing commercial building on the south side of the site. So here's the site plan. So on the north side of the site, you can see the proposed personal storage facility building, along with additional pavement to access the building, and also replacing some of the existing parking area on the site, and also expanding pavement to the south side to have access to the rear of the commercial building. So the site currently has parking area within the setback, but the pavement addition will not extend further into the setback than existing. The commercial building will have office on the front street-facing side, and then 3 commercial units towards the rear of the building. So here's the landscape plan. So it just shows street frontage landscaping that are a combination of evergreen and deciduous trees. The applicant did come before Plan Commission for a workshop, and Plan Commission was supportive of the proposal to expand the legal non-conforming personal storage facility use, with the condition, or with the evergreen trees that were originally shown at the workshop. So staff is recommending that all the street frontage landscaping be evergreen trees to sort of offset that, BSM to allow the additional storage facility building, and that kind of break up that storage facility site. The commercial building is showing a few building foundation shrubs. The storage building, as it's a new building, will require building foundation landscaping points. However, as the commercial building does not meet current standards for building foundation landscaping, staff is recommending that they have the ability to put those points either towards the storage building or the commercial building, or a combination of both. It also needs to have additional yard landscaping points to meet the total landscaping point requirement. Issues with clicker again?
Should be able to go now.
So here's renderings of the commercial building. So they're not expanding the building, it'll keep the same footprint. So as they're not expanding it, they do not need to meet current commercial design standard requirements. They are proposing to keep that stone veneer in the front and replace the existing wood siding with vinyl siding, which is a comparable material, so that would meet code as far as reconstructing a building in the same footprint. They're using a comparable material, so staff is supportive of that. The storage building will match the same materials and colors, so look basically identical to the existing storage buildings on site. And here is kind of a street view. So again, showing the evergreen trees that'll kind of break up the storage buildings. So staff is supportive of the rezone, GDP, and SIP with the findings listed in your staff report and the conditions listed in your staff report.
Okay, technical questions. Anyone with technical questions? We've had several workshops on this item, so we should, I guess not. We'll open the public hearing then. Is there an applicant here to give us a statement?
Good evening.
Hi.
Tim Zilgus, 8699 Newman Lane in Larson. And as you mentioned, we had quite a few workshops here, so I think if you need anything else or any more questions for me, please feel free to ask.
Any questions for the applicant? You were satisfied with the conditions?
Sure,
stated in the
absolutely, yeah. I would like to, and I didn't fully understand if we wouldn't have to use all evergreens in front, you know, like we talked at the last workshop, to break it up a little bit, just to match a little bit more with what's down on Algoma Street, but if that's what they're recommending, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, great. Any questions for the applicant? I guess not. Thank you very much. Anybody else here to comment on this item? Anybody else here to comment on the item? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. We just heard from the applicant. Commission, we need a motion.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Mike?
I just want to say thank you for the applicant for working with us through a couple of workshops. I think it's come a long way and is a good project.
Yes, I agree with that. I really appreciate the applicant and staff working together. Any more discussion? Call the roll. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, John.
You're too busy
You need
looking
a
at the.
stick. You
at
need
the
a
ver-
stick.
yeah, I just want to go along with what Michael said, and also say that we started so far apart with this, and with staff working so hard with the applicant, and the fact that we had multiple workshops. This is showing what somebody can do in the city if they really put their mind to it and want to work with the city, and the city wants to work with people to keep things moving forward. So.
Right. Okay. Okay, now we'll call the roll.
Hintz,
Aye.
Coulibaly,
Aye.
Davy,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Stengel,
Aye.
Prop.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
Okay, next item, 2021 Capital Improvement Program. Chair will accept the staff report as part of the record, and staff.
All right, so this is
Summary.
just a review of the annual capital improvement program. It is within Plan Commission's purview to review the determination of consistency of the CIP with the city's comprehensive plan, official maps, and other planned activities. Here's the dashboard, which shows CIP proposed projects. And also a link is provided on the Public Works homepage to view those projects. And that goes to Common Council next week on August 25th. And staff has reviewed the CIP and recommends acceptance of the 2021 Capital Improvement Program with a finding that the listed projects are not in conflict with the City of Oshkosh's comprehensive plan.
Okay. Technical questions, anyone?
I think, and we have a number of individuals from some of the departments here that are involved in the CIP request if you have specific questions. But as Brian said, from the staff perspective, we really review it against the comprehensive plan, not helping decide individual projects if we like them or not. We just look at it as consistent. In our opinion, it is.
Technical questions, folks? Anything? Nope. Public comment. Is there anyone here that wants to speak on this item? Is there anybody left back there, Mike?
I don't think so.
I don't
One
think
gentleman.
so. I don't think so. Okay, no public comment? Then we'll close public comment and, commission, we need a motion. We need a motion to find that the projects in this CIP program are consistent with the city's comprehensive plan.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
Just wanted to note that in the Plan Commission documents, the link that was provided for this is not a viable link. So if anybody from the public were looking to see what we were going over today, it's not exactly clear. I would have thought that, I mean, this is a pretty big thing, right? A lot of pretty major expenditures, and that there would be a list or something that would have been provided in this. I know there's the portal on the city website, but given that this is a public meeting and it's a pretty important topic,
I was able to
I
download.
thought
the whole
more probably could have been done for making this information available.
I'm surprised the link is not working, but
Yeah.
it's something we'll definitely look into.
Right, I agree with Justin, the link wasn't working for me.
To be clear, that link was to the dashboard, correct?
It's supposed to go to the dashboard.
Because the
for
actual
project.
126
Yeah, I was
page
gonna say, we have
document
the
is
126
there.
Yeah, the whole document is on the web link.
Yeah, the link is to another, it links to another entity,
Yeah.
which could be that portal. I'm not sure. It didn't work. So,
We'll look into it.
thank you.
Any more discussion? We'll call the roll.
Hints?
Aye.
Coulibaly.
Aye.
Davy?
Aye.
Ford?
Aye.
Mitchell?
Aye.
Perry?
Aye.
Stengel?
Aye.
Prop?
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
Okay, director's report.
We will not be having a September 1st Plan Commission meeting. We did not have any projects that were submitted for that date. So the next Plan Commission meeting will be September 15th. And we do have a number of projects already in for that meeting.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
the
All in
second?
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned, but